Hello, I'm David Wasson with CAPS, manufacturer of the Herc Reynolds 5-ton package unit. This small 5-ton package unit is capable of heating, cooling, and dehumidification. Features 2,000 CFM at about 0.87 inches of total static pressure. This short video is going to go through the installation, startup, and operation of the 5-ton package unit. The next step in our setup process is to determine how we're going to transport the unit. We give you a couple options for that. The first is we have dual sets of forklift pockets going both directions, which certainly use a fork truck. The second is we've got a certified lifting stacking cage with pad eyelets on each corner. Those eyelets can all be brought to a single point lift, and the machine can be lifted with a cherry picker or a small crane. The third option we have is we have integrated foldable casters on the machine. You lift it up about 8 inches, fold the casters down, lock the pins, and a couple of team members can roll the machine around and maneuver it within some tight quarters. A few other items we want to talk about is you got your center of gravity marked here on all 4 sides. That's for tagging and leveling out the load when being lifted overhead. And the last most important item is verifying the weight. The weight tag is clearly marked on both sides of the unit. This unit weighs 1,300 pounds, so you want to make sure that the fork truck or crane that you're using is sized properly to use it to maneuver the unit. Since our 5-ton package unit is capable of 3 distinct modes, cooling, heating, dehumidification, you need to verify the power requirements for your particular application. That's all clearly identified on the data tag here under the MCA, which is minimum circuit ampacity, and MOCP, maximum overcurrent protection. For instance, the cooling for this machine requires 14 amps, the heating is 31 amps, but in dehumidification mode it takes 41 amps to run the machine. So when you're loading it in, you want to make sure that you have an adequate power for the mode that's being required for the project. You always want to size your power supply for whatever the job calls for. All of our package units feature pass-through cam locks, and what that allows us to do, we're going to remove the dust and weather covers here on the metal cam locks. That allows us to bring in a primary feed and daisy chain another unit, 2 or 3 units together, whatever the cable capacity of the first unit is. So we've got parallel cam locks here. The first thing you want to do is check the condition of each one of the cam locks, make sure the wire's in good shape, make sure you're wearing the proper PPE, and you always want to hook your ground up first, then followed by your L1, 2, and 3. And these simply are just standard cam locks that go in and lock in. Each time you go in, you want to make sure your cables are good and tight. Now these, of course, are de-energized. We want to lock it down, verify that, and we want to make sure our cable is folded in such a manner that doesn't cause any kind of tripping hazards. And we've got our L1, 2, and 3, and our ground in. Now we have our power source currently locked and tagged out, and we're going to energize the cable, and we're going to check for main power, 460 volt 3-phase, and check for the right rotation. We've removed our lockout and tag out from our primary power source, so our cam lock cables are hot now. All of our equipment features an integrated breaker, main disconnect port. You'll just need to protect your cable off your generator or main power source. So I'm going to turn on the main power here, 460 volt 3-phase. We're going to look for power, and we're going to check our phase. As I turn it on, you can see our power light's on, but our phase incorrect light is on. Turn our breaker back off. What that indicates is we have 2 phases that are backwards. What we're going to have to do is lock and tag out our primary power, and we're going to have to change 2 of our main incoming leads. Please note, you never change the incoming leads of your cam locks with the main line energized. We've changed 2 leads, our A and B phase, by reversing them with a de-energized cable. Now we've removed our lock tag out. Our cable's now energized. I'm going to close the main circuit breaker, and you're going to see that we got main power, and our phase incorrect light is off now. It's ready to operate. But before we operate it, we're going to go to our next step of setup. All HVAC units would utilize DX cooling. When the evaporator coil gets cold, and as the warm, moist air goes across it, the water vapor in the air condenses, and it forms condensate. That's caught down in the drip pan, and you'll see here that all of our units are equipped with a P-trap because the condensate pan's on the negative side of the pan. So you're going to want to make sure that you take some water or water hose, and we're going to want to prime the trap. You just simply do that by putting a bottle here and filling the trap up with water. There's plenty of it came out. That'll create an air seal for us here so that when the machine comes up and operates and starts producing water, it'll freely drain and not be pulling the air back into the cabinet. The next step in our setup is going to be to hook up the ductwork. Since these package units are designed for 100% return air, as long as the outside ambient's above about 82 degrees, you'll need to duct the supply and the return in. This left side here is the supply duct. You remove the Jeep latches and the door holder here, and it goes into the clip there. Same thing here, these friction Jeep latches, open that up, remove the door catch here. Now you can see clearly we've got our intake and our supply. There's the heat strips there. You're going to want your ductwork to be going the correct direction. So this is our supply, it's going that way. We're just simply going to mount the duct up under the friction clamps, the friction rings that are in there on each of these, and lock these down in all four corners. We'll repeat that process on the return side. Now this duct is coming too, so the arrow is going the opposite direction. So this duct will just come in here to the bottom, and I usually hook up the bottom rings first, follow it over to the top, and then we'll bring all four of the friction clamps down. Then these two ducts will go into the conditioned space and provide cooling on one side while returning hot, moist air on the other side. Okay, to recap our setup of our 5-ton package unit that's capable of heating, cooling, or dehumidification, we started out by setting it, placing it to the location using a fork truck or crane, or potentially could even use the integrated casters. Secondly, we checked our power requirements for the job, particular application, be cooling, heating, or dehumidification. Then we primed our condensate trap. We hooked up our ductwork, supply and return. We've got all of our power hooked up. We verified that the phase is correct. So the next step is to start the machine up. We're going to do that by closing the main circuit breaker. Our power light comes on. We're going to turn the master switch on. We're going to leave the system switch in automatic. Now that we're complete with all the high voltage and sharp edges, we can remove our safety hot gloves here. And it takes about 2 minutes for the machine processor to go through a self-test mode. We're going to open up the weather tight cover that's over the thermostat. It folds down, and we're going to let the system boot up here, and then we're going to go through the programming of the thermostat. Okay, now we've got our unit powered up. Our microprocessor now is powered to the thermostat. The thermostat's going through a scrolling marquee which says occupied. The room temperature is 95.5, and the system mode is in off. So the first thing you want to know is that these thermostats are capable of 4 modes. The first one is off, the second is cooling, the third is heating, and the fourth is auto. Now, depending on your job specifications, you may only have enough power to run cooling. You only want to set it in cooling, or in heating, it requires more power, and certainly in dehumidification requires the most power. So you'll want to determine what mode based on how much power you have and based on the job specifics. In this case, we're going to set it in automatic, which I recommend, because that'll allow for the machine to come on during the cool mornings or evenings during heat, and then for cooling during the heat of the day. So right now it's currently in off, and how we're going to set it, we're going to push the menu button. First thing it says, do you want to set the temperature? And I'm going to say no. The next menu it brings up is, do you want to set the system? The system's currently off. I said, yes, I want to set the system mode. Well, it's currently in off. It has 4 positions. Use either arrow here. You can go down for off. You can go to heat, cool, or automatic. We're going to set it for automatic, and we're going to say yes. Then it's going to say, do you want to exit the system? We're going to say yes. Then we're going to go back to our menu again and push it and say, this time we want to set the temperature, yes. And we want to set the cooling, yes. And our current cooling is set for 92.2. We're going to lower that down to 70 degrees. And we're just going to set 72 degrees. You're going to hold it for rapid or go slower by each button punch. There's 73.5. And there's 72 right there. That's right, 70 degrees. We'll leave it at 70. Then we'll say yes. And it's going to say, do you want to set the heat? We'll say yes. And we're going to set the heat for 66 degrees. We're going to lower it down right there. And then we'll say yes. And there, and then it's going to say Fahrenheit or Celsius. You say no. It's going to say exit system, yes. And now you're back to your scrolling marquee, but now it's going to show you your room temp's 94.5. The system mode is for auto, and it's currently occupied. So the system is going to cycle based on the inlet air temperature. That's where the sensor is for the thermostat, where our duct connection is. It's going to cycle between heat and cool as necessary. The machine's actually already running. It's in cooling, producing cold air down our ductwork there. And as the system temperature changes on the inlet, it'll automatically cycle between heat and cool. Let's talk about the dehumidification, which is our third mode of operation for our 5-ton unit. Right now it's being controlled by the thermostat. By simply going here and turning the switch to dehumidification, it's going to take it the maximum airflow, it's going to run all of the cooling and turn all of the heating on. At this point the machine does nothing but provide cool, dry, neutral air. Its job is just to remove humidity, and we'll typically run this mode during restoration, or if we have a high humid environment that needs dehumidification, we'll use the unit in our DH mode. Okay, this video is complete with the installation, setup, and operation of the HERT 5-ton package unit. Keep in mind it's capable of doing heating, cooling, and dehumidification. Hope you enjoyed the video.